Hangout is on live.
Be careful what you say.
Exactly.
Watch your language, Evan.
Oh, there's Steve.
Hello.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Okay, Stuart, how's our progress toward 0.6?
It's not doing too bad, actually. I think we're doing... well, it's mostly there. I mean, we need to decide whether we're going to change the names of the name tuple thing in map.
People don't seem to feel all that strongly about needing to change it. I just mean, people have offered alternatives, but it's kind of like, it could be this or it could be that. There's no clamoring that I'm hearing.
Oh, I'm clamoring for change. I don't really care which way we decide, but I definitely want to get rid of those stupid dictionaries.
No.
The dictionaries have gone.
In.
Oh, good. Okay.
The question is whether we're changing the names.
It should not be X and Y.
But I just mean, but Stuart, I'm just saying the issue has basically had
nobody cares. Nobody cares.
I think X and Y is fine.
No, it's not.
Remind me
Stuart,
why
you're suggesting them calling an X-axis and Y-axis. I really don't understand why that's better from your perspective.
Because it makes it less likely to confuse
it's not linked
people.
to HPC anymore.
Yeah.
But X and Y on a plot are like way more generic than anything like that. I mean, how can somebody be offended by that? Come on. You're looking for a reason to be offended by that name.
People
People
are in fact stupid. It's all right. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's just it's just a little too.
Only if you're sensitive.
Very sensitive.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind. If people want to keep it as it is, then we'll keep it as it is, but I think it should probably be X-axis and Y-axis.
If you draw a plot on a whiteboard, what do you name the axes? Like randomly put anything.
I don't know. Are you talking about a polar coordinate system or what?
my point is that
Undefined.
My point is that it should be. Just by putting axis there, it makes it obvious that you're talking about the axis of the plot as opposed to the axis of the coordinate system. But I suppose it doesn't really. Whatever. Okay, I don't care. We'll leave it as it is.
Well, like I said, no discussion on the email over email. Basically, no new discussion on the issue. I'm not convinced that there's enough concern over this.
It just seems weird to me to do map.x to get something in heliographic coordinates, which would happen if the map was in native heliographic as opposed to HPC.
But you could just do map bracket 0 and then done.
Yes, you could. But if we're going to say you could just do that, we might as well just make it a tuple and only allow that everywhere.
I would have thought if it was heliographic, then you should somehow explicitly mention that it's X and Y heliographic rather than getting offended by a non-specific X and Y label.
But the point is that map should not be directly linked to whatever coordinate system the map's in. But it's fine. Fine.
Not A and B.
Using this argument.
Nobody liked A1 and A2 or X1 and X2.
Oh my god, that's terrible. That's even worse.
Well, I mean, the only reason it's like X and Y is just, it's purely heritage, right?
Yeah.
Scientific heritage.
From like Newton and Leibniz, you mean?
Yeah.
Let's throw it all away. All of history.
My real issue with this is whoever decided that helioprojective was a Cartesian coordinate system and decided to call the axes fecking X and Y is the biggest lie ever.
That's dumb.
It's not a Cartesian coordinate system. They should not be named X and Y. It is in fact a spherical coordinate system. They should be named longitude and latitude, and you all should swivel.
Well, then maybe we should do that instead.
We just convert
Campaign
it
the
to...
sun.
I
then
agree.
we
With
would not have this problem.
I disagree because we don't know. We could have maps that are in Cartesian coordinate systems.
But we do. We have.
Yes, but my point is, it shouldn't be coordinate system. It shouldn't. The names of the attributes should not be implying anything about the coordinate system in which the data is held.
But if you called them lat and lon, you would be, right?
Oh, sure. We shouldn't call them lat and long either.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
I don't know, X and
I
Y
and J.
the easiest abstractions that people would understand right away about the axes in the plots that they're using, right? They're shorthand, they're not perfect, but they're understandable, and we can move on. If we call them anything else, then we're forcing people to learn what we're doing, and we don't want to put those kinds of obstacles in people's way.
No, to my mind, saying x-axis and y-axis is more explicit than just x and y. But I suppose it doesn't necessarily remove the ambiguity that I am taking offense to.
So what are we doing? How are we moving forward on this?
Yeah, have we got bigger problems in the SunPy world? If we don't, that's great.
Now we've lost Albert, who's rudely taking a call.
Was someone calling to complain about the axis level?
Stuart, how long do you think? How much time do I have to fix in the plotting stuff to get it into 0.6, or should we ignore that completely?
Fixing what?
The plot fixes.
Well, you mean making plot and peak do the right thing?
Yeah, and there was a few changes that I think are important in terms of the way we automatically set the color bars. Right now,
so I was having a conversation with Larry Mantley over Hangouts the other day about normalizing things. He was getting very grumpy about normalizing things. Well, I say grumpy. He was saying that it breaks all his stuff the way we normalize things at the moment. I think the normalization stuff will probably have to wait.
Well,
yeah, I mean, the single thing I wanted to accomplish for sure was that we show all of the data from minus whatever to plus whatever.
The other thing that we need to do is make sure it's easy for people to change it, because like he does byte scaling, he uses the ideal byte scaling routines to scale it from 0 to 254 or whatever, so he can build composite images.
Yeah. I mean, I changed the API by moving it all into a plot parameters dictionary. So.
And the other thing, yeah, that's a good thing as well. And the other thing that I remember from when you did that last time is there's now the SunPy visualization and normalization stuff. Remember, I linked you to that around sometime after that pull request.
Wait, what? Say that again?
So there's SunPy have got a load of new code for doing this kind of thing.
Is it released?
Yeah.
Is it in the main branch? It's in.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in 1.0. Have a link.
I think this is a kind of a side discussion of. The more important question is, when do we want 0.6 out?
About 2 months ago.
I think getting it out as quickly as possible before we have another pile of GSOC codes.
I completely agree.
So, I mean, it might be nice to fix the normalization stuff, but I think we need to, I've been telling people 0.6 is coming out, so don't bother with 0.5 point something, so...
Always bother with bug fixes.
No, but we
Damn,
can...
Jack.
No, but we can... Does that need to hold up 0.6 in particular?
No. Okay, so, no, I don't think it does. There is...
Otherwise, we'll never.
There are 2 open pull requests for 0.6.
And maybe mine. Maybe mine.
You don't have an open pull request right now, right?
I know. So that's why I'm saying
Okay, well,
enough time and I can put it in.
You just want to be mentioned in that sentence.
charge, Steve. Charge.
Oh dear.
And I would propose that 1423 gets in as well, unless someone spots something majorly wrong with it, because I think it's done. So
You put the 0.6 label on it.
no, but I have now. There are now 3 open pull request milestones 0.6.
Okay.
2 of which are ridiculously simple. We should merge them.
And what about how's the documentation looking? Does anyone know? Like,
The
presumably-
docs probably do need some love.
Yeah. So that may be a small window for you, Stephen.
Suggest we leave it because I'd rather shut off changes to 0.6 and
Yeah.
focus on get a release candidate out, get the documentation edited, and then actually get a good release out the door.
Yes. Okay, that's fine. You give me a timeline. If I can't satisfy it, then just move ahead. I'll work
I
through
will.
it.
I
And
will
then-
probably be baking 0.6 RC1 sometime around midday my time on Friday. Then.
Okay, well, I'll see if I can make that. If not, don't worry about me. Just go ahead.
Okay. So, can someone else review 1415, please? My lovely
Review it?
one-line fix.
Looks great.
You're kidding. You know.
Here, have your thumbs up.
Yeah, I'll give it a thumbs up. Don't tell me that's a complaint about this one. That phone call, I mean.
What are you doing?
Who is calling?
I think he might have a space heater in his office.
Okay, so 1423, the last remaining pull request milestone is 0.6, actually contains some interesting changes. It's probably worthy of some discussion.
Sorry, which one?
1423.
Okay.
This adds the ability to pass in a user-defined function to the MapCube animator class, which is the thing that is generated by mapcube.peak, that allows you to define custom plotting routines on top of each frame of the MapCube. And thereby allowing you to do a MapCube animation with an overlay grid or a limb or anything else you can plot on top of it.
Well, I think this is great. So this came out of Andy's desire to animate a MapCube with a limb and a grid on it. So this is a generalization of that, right?
Yeah. This doesn't do anything with mapcube.plot, which is possible, but is, well, I just didn't do it. But in theory, you can call mapcube animate dot. There's a method to mapcube animate that gives you a matplotlib animation object, which allows you to save it to file.
I'll play with this. I'll play with this afternoon, and
The two other changes that come with this that I actually really like is the change in behavior to draw grid and draw limb in map. This makes draw grid limb return the matplotlib patches object.
Instead of the axes object. Yeah, that makes sense.
Instead of the axes object. The reason I had to change that was because when you define the custom plot function for peak, anything you return from the custom plot function has its remove method called, and it is deleted at the start of the next step, next frame, thereby allowing you to plot something for a frame, delete it, and plot something else on top of it, because otherwise it was stacking all of the limbs for every frame in the map view object. So if you want to plot something that stays there for the whole time series, you don't return it, and anything you return gets its remove method called and is deleted from the plot.
I don't. Okay, I haven't tried running this code, but just looking at the docs, how do you use this plot function?
How do you what? Sorry.
I'm just looking at the doc string. I haven't tried running this code. I'm just looking at the doc string. You define a custom plotting function, myPlot, that draws the limb.
Yeah.
But how is that myPlot actually called? Or
Oh, I didn't add it to apps, so that's an oversight. Have a look at the comment in the top of the pull request. You pass it in as a argument to the function. It's a mistake.
Okay, that makes more sense. I was like, it's magically called.
Magic.
Also, am I misreading this, Stuart? But this is why is the doc string for peak not have examples using peak?
Oh yeah. What? Well, it's not my fault. That has clearly been like that for a while.
Okay.
I have a question on another subject. Ready for that?
Yep.
So the branch is gone. 0.6 branch is gone.
No.
Are we still using it or no?
Yes, I rebased the 0.6 branch. Basically, I deleted it and rebuilt it because it had got horrifically out of sync with master, and it made it very difficult to merge my map pull request onto 0.6. It was going to be really ugly, so I just did a bit of git cleaning. But it's still there, and it now you can now pull request from master to 0.6.
So master is, I mean, whatever is a master is fine. Is 0.6.
What? No. Well, yes and no. What are you asking?
There is no the difference between
what I should be developing to.
you can develop onto master, and then
Okay.
we'll pull it across to 0.6.
Okay, that's what I wanted to do.
I think the only difference between the two at the moment is the version number, but having the 0.6 branch allows me to do some build stuff that are a bit easier than we'll be able to otherwise. We have got one thing that needs to be done from a release perspective, and that is we need a WCS Axis conda package before we do a release, which is being worked on the AstroPy side, so hopefully they'll get that done before we want to do a release, and I have to bake my own. To be honest, I might bake my own anyway. Anyway, yeah.
I just wanted to briefly mention at some point during this meeting. You go ahead, Alvin.
I was going to say, so Jack, you're going to check out the MapCube animator?
Yeah, I'll do that this afternoon.
Okay. I'll try to take a look at it too, but anyone else who wants to take a look at it should. Let's get this.
So what about the docs for 0.6? Should we just go down the changelog and then see what the docs say in reference? Would that be a way to go forward with that?
The docs probably need a complete read-through to make sure that they're sane. But yeah, I mean, changelog's a good place to start with.
Is it just me, or does Steve look like he's frozen?
Oh, can you hear me?
No.
No, you're still there. It's just Albert. Cold-hearted.
Stunned by SunPy.
I just wanted to mention at some point during this meeting, as with just what I kind of mentioned in the email while I was away in Boulder, and just to hear if anyone knew about this at all. Basically, there's in the new version of RDL that's coming out, or just to make people aware, there's going to be an RDL Python and Python RDL bridge that they're writing, which means that during a RDL session you can call Python code and vice versa.
This is officially the downfall of RDL, by the way. Just saying.
Well, this is I know. I saw this.
This is the end. This is the last horseman of the apocalypse. That is it. They are dead.
It's either I mean, right, exactly. So it's like I'm not going to tell them how excited I am about this and why I am, but anyway. So the point is that for like there's still a huge amount of SSW code that we can't. The capability of which we can't reproduce in SunPy at the moment, or we haven't reproduced. But this would enable us to essentially call like instrument-specific routines, which are only written in RDL, in a Python session. So there's a discussion to be had as to whether we're interested in either using it or promoting it as some way of like, hey, this is a way that you can still use your instrument-specific software in RDL, but actually move over to Python. Or if you want to use it as a solution that you can, in SunPy itself, I'm not sure that's a good idea specifically at all, because then you're relying
over my cold dead body.
No, well, right, but I'm just saying if to get functionality, all I'm saying is that there's a discussion to be had, and the first question would just be, is anyone aware of this or interested in promoting or using this in any way? It may not be discussed now. Sorry?
It's not out yet, right? It's in the next version of IDL, I think?
Correct. It's in the upcoming version of IDL.
What, as in 9?
8.5.
8.5.
Yeah. So the next 8. Because one of the difficulties we
definitely
have...
not from SunPy Master. Definitely not SunPy Prime. But
I agree.
I think we could definitely write a good affiliated package which presents nice Python wrappers to some of the most important IDL functionality, cough, sekiprep, cough. And other instrument calibration routines?
Nope.
No?
No. You
No
just want
what?
to write so use IDL if you want, then write out the data and then read it into SunPy. I don't think
No, that's not always so simple.
No. It's also a big discouragement. People tend to want to, when they think about this question, they tend to think, I want to use Python or IDL. If I have to use both, why don't I just use IDL? It works.
Yeah,
it's fine.
it's more. I know that you can work like that. You can just open up an IDL prompt and do sekiprep save file, or you could load up an IPython notebook, read in a fits file using map, pass that map object into a Python function, which underneath goes out and calls sekiprep and passes you back a new map, which is a nice calibrated sekimap. That second workflow is much nicer and appears to be Python, even though it isn't.
It's what a user would want to do. And if you open up IDL and then go back to Python, you have to be obstinately determined to use Python, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but a lot of people aren't. So if you only have to interface with one language,
I wonder who the audience is for this. The people that are doing this, that are like going out purposely, they know that they need to go to IDL and run like sekiprep or something, and then bring it out into Python and SunPy. They are already converted, right? You know, they're already on our side. I guess it would be nice for us to spend some time to make things a little bit easier for them.
So are you saying the people who would want to use, to go out to a separate IDL session and then come back are already on our side? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Right, exactly, yeah. I
I'm
agree.
already convinced that, you know, Python, I want to do the rest of my analysis in Python. I just need to do a few things that I can't do in Python in IDL, and then I'll come back to Python. I think the question is that if we provide these kind of tools, is that going to convince people that are not using Python now that they can just skip out on IDL and move to Python? And
it still requires that they have IDL 8.5 and IDL license, but it means that they only have to interface with one language.
Right, but it would be a new language for them, right?
Right, but the point is, if they didn't have to jump out of that, I mean, I've heard this a couple of times about saying, oh, I'd be really interested in using Python, but can you do, Seki or whatever? And it's like, well, I mean, if you can't do that, then I'm not going to bother. Whereas if you could actually do everything by interfacing through Python, at least, if not SunPy, it suddenly becomes a much smaller excuse for them not to bother, even though they do have an interest. Because
so,
they say,
but what it says is, why should I bother with Python at all? Like, if I'm going to use sekiprep anyway, why don't I just stick with IDL?
That argument gets a lot thinner if you don't actually ever have to write a line of IDL code yourself.
Exactly.
But if you're going to have to write code anyway, then why not just stay in IDL?
Sure, you're always going to get people with that argument, but I think that you remove one more barrier.
And I think there would be people who would come across.
Well,
I don't know how many, but there would be some.
I think we could argue kind of both ways on this. My personal view is it's probably not worth our time spending too much of our own personal, our own time diverting to essentially supporting IDL in Python. I think the first thing we should do is we could maybe, create some guides or something, some IPython notebook in the galleries. Be like, look, you can do this. Isn't this great? And not, create lots of code. Just show like, oh, here you can. This is the sekiprep command, and we send it off to IDL, and it comes back, right?
I think that's actually initially the most valuable thing that we can do. I don't think it actually takes that much code because essentially you're just calling IDL from Python.
And then what?
Yeah.
And then what comes back? A dictionary, right?
Well,
And then-
we'll have to see.
Yeah, exactly.
They
I mean,
told you-
so whatever comes back, right, would have to be parsed by SunPy and turned into some kind of SunPy object, and then at that point, we're supporting IDL, right?
No, we'll just show them the code on how to convert that to like a map object.
But then say things change, and
I would argue that we should not put dev time into this. If someone gets this, goes, it's quite interesting, and wants to write some docs or even write a package, an affiliated package to wrap some of this stuff. If someone else wants to put some time into that, then it's fine. But we shouldn't take full dev time too much.
So I mean, I have a use case for this actually. With I would love to use PyMC and the RESI code to do spectral fitting. So this bridge will be very useful for that. But I'm not going to expect SunPy to support that.
Yeah.
I'll do that on my own time.
Yeah,
Fine,
this is
but
the thing.
I still think. Okay, go ahead, Stuart.
I think if any form of support should be in a affiliated package, we should
Yes.
not support this inside the core library.
Yeah. And
I think everyone agrees on that.
Yeah, but I also think that we shouldn't spend. My view at the moment so far is that we shouldn't be spending too much time writing code to support it. But I think it would be really useful to publicize this because I think it is a selling point that it's this one argument or one of the arguments that you get. It's like, oh yeah, but you don't have Seki, you don't have this in SunPy. To counter that argument and saying there's no reason to leave Python if you want this. If you want this functionality. So for advertising time, I think we should seriously consider putting some advertising time into it. And some.
I think
in theory. Sorry, go on.
So we need to see how this thing operates because, like, if somebody's going to run Seki prep and expect to get a fits file or an array exactly the same way that, if they expect IDL but in Python, then I'm not sure that's.
No, that shouldn't be. That shouldn't be what we expect. The thing is, right? Okay, so I like this in theory. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't used RDL in a long time. No, I like it that way. But if you call AIA prep, you give it a file name and you get back a header and an array, right? You get back a struct and an array. Is that right?
Yes.
Yep.
So I'm assuming that this Python bridge, if it's done well, which may not be a valid assumption, is coming out of IDL after all, will get back two variables when you call it. You'll get back a NumPy array and a dictionary. Now you could, in theory, throw that into the map constructor, and that would be it. You get a file name.
The little bit that I did see was that if you put or if your RDL output that you're putting into Python is a structure, that maybe should the most sensible way to put that in might be a NumPy rec array. In some cases, they'll put it comes out as a dictionary. I don't know. I mean, I just saw one brief.
My point is that if the API looks something like this, where you have like PySSW.AIA prep, you give it a file name.
We've lost you, Stuart. You've muted yourself.
I was typing. So if you call something like this in the chat, when you call PySSW.AIA prep and a file, and you get back a header and data, which are the two outputs of this solar software thing. If you do that, you can then just do map hell is going on with my keyboard? You can just do map of data. You just do map data header like that.
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So AIA prep, for example, has this funky index file, which I'm not sure is used anywhere else across well, all the Lockheed-based stuff, I think, uses this kind of index construction.
I mean, obviously there are a lot of nuances, but I think it's definitely worth publicising. I'm definitely with Dan in that if this thing exists and you can calibrate data from a Python API, even if it is doing nasty things with IDL underneath, it's still going to make life easier for some users, and therefore it's something we should be documenting and we should be publicising.
Yeah. Yeah, I
If
agree.
we end up having to translate a whole bunch of translate the organization of how somebody in IDL has thought about their particular problems, then yeah, affiliated package fine, but not in SunPy proper.
No.
I think we all agree on that.
There will be no pollution of SunPy with evil IDL code.
Aside from philosophical or derisive language, it just makes everything a lot harder.
Yeah, it's
It's just for ease of
jokes aside, it's
maintenance.
not worth it. I mean, for a start, you don't want SolarSoft and IDL to become a dependency of the SunPy library. I mean, just
No.
that alone is an argument to never do that, right? I mean, it
exactly.
makes it impractical to a whole new level. I do wonder about building a Conda package for SolarSoft, though.
We'll wander
Don't
away.
waste your time. There are other more important
Oh,
things.
don't worry, I won't be.
I had two other bits of news-ish. Well, we did not get funding for SunPy development through NASA. They essentially deemed the SunPy proposal to be irrelevant to the call, unfortunately, which I thought was a pretty harsh interpretation of what we were providing. And then I also spoke with, I guess this is more like board news, but I spoke with, was it Jessie? Was that her name? Cruz?
Oh yes, our
Cruz.
friend in New York.
Kelly Cruz.
Yeah. Kelly.
Oh,
Cruz,
yeah.
not Jessie, Kelly. And that's, I mean, she spoke with someone at NSF and really didn't go anywhere in the end. Yeah, it was still a productive discussion with them, so they're kind of, it's a little bit more on their radar, but they provided the same types of excuses that you would expect, which is like, well, why don't you guys, fund it through some other ways and in the normal way, right? Projects can fund this, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I just thought I'd let you guys know.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Upwards and onwards, I'd say.
Yeah.
Going back to PRs, can people hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
good.
afraid I have to
Hang
put
up.
you on.
Hang out froze, but as long as you guys can hear me. David had he mentioned on a response to the event that he wants people to look at 1002 PR, the oldest PR we have on our list.
1002. Oh yes, he has resuscitated this, hasn't he?
Wait, hang on a second. Stuart, you're not getting an error when you don't specify plot function?
Nope.
I'm getting an iterating over none type error. I'll throw up the traceback.
Oh no, wait, I was on the wrong branch. Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Hang on a second. I need to change the thing that it's returning. Yes, of course. My
Okay.
bad.
Anyway, 1002 is Scraper. Any thoughts? Anyone?
Why do we need this?
Well, that could be a question for David.
Okay, so I haven't put much brain power into this recently, but I think what it does, if I'm remembering correctly, I haven't even looked at this recently, is that it allows you to specify a pattern and then get all the URLs that match that pattern. So if you went to an FTP directory and when I want all the files that are in this directory that exist for this day of this month.
Right. No, you're answering what it does, not why we need it.
All right, so it's useful for things like, say, the goes like curve, where you want to get all the files for a day. So you specify a pattern, and the scraper generates all the URLs that you can then download. So it's useful for the Unidown module for when you're dealing with data in FTP.
And there aren't modules that already do this?
I don't know. Not that David found, clearly. I mean,
it's like love for online, right? I mean, that's what we're saying.
Yeah, it's not particularly complicated. So, I mean, for the what we're talking about here, a couple of hundred lines of code, I'm not convinced that a new dependency would necessarily be worth it. But so also, I think this is specifically date based. Looking at this.
So does this just create a set of files?
No, it creates a set of URLs.
Set of URLs. So it's just a big kind of string exercise.
Yes, string and it only returns URLs that actually exist on the server. So it uses Beautiful Soup to query the server to work out what files exist and returns you all the files.
So there is a package called Scrapy. Oh, a terrible name. Or SunPy.
Scrappy.
I was going to say Scrappy, right?
SunPy.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly agree with you, Stuart, in terms of new dependency. On the other hand, this is code that we would have to support, right, over time.
To be fair, Scrappy looks way, way more complicated.
Oh, yeah. But this is a pretty general problem.
It is, but it's a reasonably specific implementation in that it is specifically dealing with time strings.
Yeah.
Also, Albert, if you don't jump SunPy back in, it will kill the broadcast.
What?
If the SunPy G+ page isn't in the Hangout for a certain amount of time, it will kill the broadcast.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll fix my computer then.
What happened to your computer?
I have no idea.
I mean, I need to review this properly, but I've got nothing against it in principle. I think it will be quite useful. And
So
even including tests, it only just about breaks 300 lines of code. So it's not like we're taking on a monolith.
I would argue, and I'm going to put this as a comment, that this code is not useful unless it's incorporated into the rest of the SunPy code.
I mean, for a start, the Google Summer of Code project doing the SIT data at the moment will find this useful.
That's fine, but this should be used in Unidown somewhere.
Sure, but it will be. Like it's on a source by source basis in Unidown, not globally in Unidown. Because the sources for each Unidown, like things like Lyra and Goes and Sit or whatever comes next, generate the URLs that Unidown then downloads. So it's a source by source problem.
Yeah.
And obviously everything that we've written in for Unidown at the moment works by virtue of the fact that we didn't have this when we wrote them.
Okay.
So I mean, I don't really have anything against this in principle.
I can see that this would be, rather than using an outside package, if we have a small amount of code which does something extremely particular, is that worth having it and maintaining it as opposed to using something like Scrapey?
I mean, I think it would take a reasonable amount of effort to implement this with Scrapey anyway, because you've got to deal with time and date, unless there is something in here that is specific dates and times. So, man, Scrapey is much more of a generic web scraper than it is.
Yeah. Oh, I should use this for Helio View.
What, Scrapey?
Yeah.
Why, what
Although actually we took the same solution of, like, since we define how the packages or how the data is laid out when you're downloading a JPEG 2000 file, Keith just wrote a custom scraper to. So yeah, we had the same problem and the same solution.
Same problem, same solution, yeah.
So I think that Scrapey is more about following links to get more links. It's a web crawler like Googlebot.
Okay, so maybe like these solutions are too heavy.
Yeah, whereas what David's done is basically a URL generation routine that can recurse through a few directories. Like,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, what the David's thing seems to, I would say that scraping doesn't even seem like the right word for this.
yeah,
It's just like a huge shotgun blast to find everything that exists with this that fits a certain pattern.
yeah. I mean, it is. I suppose Scraper is probably an apt description in that it is actually going and asking the websites what URLs exist and then scraping them and returning them to the user. But but yes, I see your point that it's an exceedingly specific scraper. It's
Okay. We talked about this non-0.6 issue long enough.
Well, David wants us in because...
Yeah, I was going to say the GSOC project could probably use this.
Well, what's stopping them from using it?
But I mean, nothing. And they are going to use it. But I mean, if we can get it into 0.6, it would be nice to get it into 0.6. I will attempt to...
Let's put in a branch or something.
I mean, it's fine. But if people can review it before the end of the week, we can get it into 0.6. There's nothing stopping us.
If it's reviewed, it's reviewed. If it's not, it's not. So
exactly. But
people take a look if you have the time.
I'm going to remove the work in progress label and just leave review.
Yep, that sounds good.
There are still lots of pull requests with review on it. Are all of these actually reviewed? No. See, this one shouldn't be review anymore because that's broken. In fact, I'm going to close this pull request because I am never going to find the time to finish it. Go away. The landscape IO one.
Oh.
hash-based figure verification for tests. I thought that was finished.
I mean, it's usable.
So what?
It's not a question of it being finished. It's a question of whether anyone aside from me and partially you have looked at it at all.
Well, I reviewed it. I thought this was in.
No.
We should get this into 0.6.
I'm fine with that.
I thought this had gone.
The main question, the main reason that I have any hesitation on this, really, is that the actual process for updating a library is a little bit weird.
Yeah, but that can be fixed. It's not like we're using it very much at the moment,
That's
but
right.
it would be nice to have the framework in place for 0.6.
That's right. Then
I suppose actually it doesn't really matter because it's not really user-facing anyway, but it would be nice to merge this soon, be it before or after 0.6 doesn't actually make any difference, but it would be good to get it in.
There's really no reason to wait on it because it doesn't hurt anything to have it in there.
No.
Okay, I actually have a phone call in 2 minutes, so
I have an overwhelming urge to go home to bed.
everyone look at PRs. Let's target 0.6 by the end of this week, so anything that's reviewed can go in. Reviewed well can go in. And anything that's not ready, we'll just have to wait till the next point release if it's not API changing or 0.7. Hopefully we can do that on a more timely basis.
Would be nice.
Okay, you guys can keep talking if you wish, but I'm going to hang up. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, chat to you later.
Yep. All right. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Right.